I don't think of myself as a liberal, but that title is often applied to me by people who want to pin me down for some ism or other. Okay, well, if you have to do that, that's fine. I don't care if you call me a liberal or a conservative or a whateverist. That's just something that exists in your own head. I don't subscribe to it, but if you have to make sense out of me by calling me that, all right, fair enough, I'll live with it. And in the circles that I operate in, a lot of the guys that I know identify themselves as liberals or lefties or whatever you want to call them. And one common theme that comes up in the conversation about the dating game is the frustration that a lot of them elicit when dating women that identify themselves as feminists, and it almost turns into a predictable series of objections that the guy has about the girl. Okay, she's a feminist. She knows, she's read all the feminist books. She's does all the feminist stuff, quotes all the feminist talk, votes feminist, could be an activist in the pro-choice movement, this kind of thing. But when you get her home, she turns into this completely traditional woman, but you point this out to her, and she's angry. Now, I'm not trying to pillory feminist hypocrisy here. The hypocrisy of the second-person feminist, i.e. the one that wants a feminist world outside of their own personal sphere, but inside of their own life, they want to pick and choose. In other words, in their own life, they want feminism, but with corrections. So I choose this particular example not to attack feminists, or that kind of feminist, assuming that such a feminist actually exists, but to point out the fact that we all do this. Anyone who ever identifies with any kind of ism out there believes in whatever that ism is, with corrections. I've never met a pure conservative. I've never met a pure liberal or a pure ultra-rightist or a pure ultra-leftist. I don't think that such a thing actually exists. So, in a way, we're all hypocritical. As I say, I kind of have made fun of the quote-unquote liberal dating game here, because it is kind of amusing when you look at it. It's a bit screwy, but I can only imagine that conservatives, quote-unquote, have the same problems. What do you do when you get a woman who identifies herself as a conservative, but who has a very strong personality, and a dominant personality? I come from the Irish Catholic community, and nobody's more traditional than an Irish Catholic family. Sexual stereotyping is rampant. It's still, the Irish Catholic community might be the last ones to finally come to terms with gay rights, or even the existence of gays. It's still very much a community in denial. But women call the shots in the Irish family, and Irish men are cool with that. If your mother says something, you listen. It's not an assault on your masculinity. That's just the way it is. Even your sister sometimes tends to get more respect than the males do, although overtly. The men rule the roost. The men are completely in charge. The men occupy all the positions of respect. But really, when you actually watch the dynamics of the family, the women are in charge. The man might be the king, as the saying goes, but the woman is the ace. So every ism that you care to come up with is, when you try to apply it to real life, bound to create its own contradictions and its own hypocrisies. You can take a hardline atheist who might believe in luck. You can take a Christian fundamentalist who believes in the right to bear arms, even though Christ had said, turn the other cheek, but they'll come up with all kinds of gymnastics to explain why they say that Christ didn't really mean that. Although they'll point to one little tiny thing in the Bible that says that being gay is evil. So anyway, any ism that you've got out there will create its own contradictions and its own hypocrisies, and it makes people very uncomfortable. People that subscribe to isms tend to oftentimes get into more of a pickle with people that they supposedly self-identify with than their opponents. The obvious example of this is the socially liberal but fiscal conservative type person versus the socially conservative person, i.e., the capitalist Ayn Rand libertarian type conservative and the Bible-thumping type conservative. They have very little in common. They might identify as conservatives, but usually they don't like each other very much at all. And also you get the type of left-winger who is the liberal free-thinking left-winger, and then you get the hardline fanatical feminist, communist, whatever. These two sides generally hate each other more than they hate the right wing, assuming that they've got a coherent idea as to what the right wing is. So I think that one should bear this in mind whenever you're attacking someone else's ideas, because you can, whatever point of view you tend to be attacking, one of the major weapons that you've got to criticize that point of view is the hypocrisy inherent in that point of view. But the problem is, whatever ism you yourself seek to identify with is riddled with hypocrisy itself. I'm not saying that we shouldn't categorize ourselves. I think that, as I say in my bit about the straw man, we have to categorize. Otherwise, the world doesn't make sense. But we have to understand that isms are just that, and human beings are infinite-faceted things, infinite-faceted, contradictory things, contradictory beings that will never make sense. And if someone does identify themselves with a certain point of view, with a certain political, social, whatever point of view, there's going to be contradictions, and that goes for me and you too. Thank you.